Good morning and welcome to Five a Day. This week we're looking at some things that I hope will help us to move forward, that create a platform for us to grow and to develop and just to spring forward in our lives. Yesterday we looked at the whole thing about listening to God. Listen to God was the theme, and that if we want to move forward, the first thing we need to do is to listen to God. But let me read you a verse that Jesus said in Matthew 7:24, in the middle of his sermon on the Mount, where he spent several days teaching all the people who'd come out to listen to him from towns, villages, his disciples, elsewhere. He spent a few days teaching them. Many would never have heard his teaching before. Many perhaps never heard him again speak personally to them. This is what he says: anyone who listens to my teaching and follows it is wise, like a person who builds a house on solid rock. So it's saying that listening to him is foundational. Listening to him is the beginning, but to listen to my teaching and follow it. And so if yesterday was listen to God, today is act on what you hear and know now. Act on what you hear and know now. And that's incredibly important. We don't wait to know everything. These people hadn't been taught everything, but what Jesus had taught them is saying, build on that. Listen to that, put that into practice. How often we hear stuff, and we hear a lot of stuff, and we hear a lot of good stuff, and we think, well, that's brilliant, and we soon forget it. We even write it down or we record it, but we forget it, and we don't put it into practice. I like to play golf, and from time to time I had golf lessons, and I've got a whole set of little videos from a batch of golf lessons I did a few years ago, and it's good stuff, but have I gone back to look over them? I haven't really, and I should do, because that will give me tips really that will help me in my game, particularly when you get rusty, and after lockdown, everybody seems to have come back rusty, but I really need to go back and listen to them. And that's what we're like. We hear good things and we know they're good for us, but do we apply? But don't wait to know everything. Sometimes we think, well, I'll put this into practice, I'll live the Christian life, I'll do this when I know more, when I've learnt more. Teach me more, let me know more, let me understand the whole Bible, let me swallow the Bible and know everything about God, and then I can serve him. And that isn't reality of how life works. I'm using a computer here, and I'm using a particular program to do this with. And I knew nothing about it a few weeks back before lockdown. I know very little about it now, but actually I've learned more as I've gone on. And last weekend, I had to do more on it. I had to do things for myself that somebody else had done for me. And so they taught me and showed me how to do it, what to do, how to use the program and do it. And so I learned. And that tends to be how we learn. You get mobile phones. Do you learn everything and how everything works? No, you do it as you go, as you need to. As you develop, you learn, and one thing leads to another. And so what we're to do is to put into practice the little that we know, whatever that might be, what Jesus has taught us. Put that into practice now, and that builds and builds and builds. I've got a little quote here from a 13th century priest. Is a priest and philosopher and thinker, Thomas Aquinas, and he says this: we can't have full knowledge all at once. We must start by believing, and then afterwards we may be led on to master the evidence for ourselves. And so we begin that journey, we begin on that foundation of what Jesus has said and what we've heard. If we've heard that we need to be born again and we need to give him our life, hey, we do that. We act on that, and that leads into a new life, and then we begin to act on it. We read something in the Bible, God speaks to us through prayer and said this is what we should be doing, and we put that into practice and we find, oh, that works. that builds, and so we go on to the next stage. It's how you learn. How many people have gone to university, gone and just, I just don't understand this, and yet 3 years down the line, they're leaving with a degree because each step builds upon another. Learn a little at a time, put it into practice, and then go on to the next bit. So often we don't grow and we don't develop because we don't put into practice the little bit we know. It isn't the expert knowledge that gets us anywhere, but it's good knowledge that's applied. Jesus often criticized those who were religious teachers, those who were the most learned, who could quote you the Old Testament word by word. They knew everything about it, but he said, you don't know the scriptures and you don't understand them either. Let's put into practice what we do know, and that's a key to our spiritual growth always. God bless you. Have a fantastic day, and I look forward to connecting with you tomorrow morning.